What's happening, people? You're listening to another episode of The Giants Guys, brought to you by Play Pickup. Go to nygiantsrush.com. Check out the pickups there. It's pretty cool. We're going to do a Super Bowl edition coming up, but there's a lot of cool pickups to play there. And by the way, it's free, so check it out. Back in the lab, Mikey Fresh, Spartan is in the building with me. And guess what? So is Kawika Mitchell. What's happening, my friend?
What's going on, fellas?
Yeah, we're glad you stopped by because we got a ton of questions, and as a former Super Bowl winner and smash mouth linebacker, we got tons of questions on just in general, like, you know, where this team is with the Giants. Are you keeping track of what they're doing? But I'm going to start off with some softball stuff first. Is that okay?
All right.
All right, cool. So I wrote this down because I didn't want to mess it up. You played college ball at University of Southern Florida after transferring from Georgia, right?
Correct.
Here's the cool stat, guys. Check this out. He held the all-time tackling record at the school from 2002 to 2017 with 367 tackles. By the way, you're still number 2 in school history for tackles. Butkus nominee, junior and senior year, drafted in the second round by the Kansas City Chiefs. So the big question for me is you had 3 kick-ass years in Kansas City. How were you even available for the Giants? I mean, like, you were getting a sack a year. You had forced fumbles. You were tackling everything that moved. Those 2005-6 years were great. How does that happen?
Oh, man, it's an unfortunate story, actually. And I don't really think anybody knows about it, but I changed agents, and I think I was on the market. I hit free agency. I was, like you said, I had some good stats. I was a captain. I was a leader of the team, rookie of the year. So, I'm expecting a payday, and I wanted to stay in Kansas City. That was my goal. That was my plan. And I got a call from my agent, and he said, what did he say? He said, well, they're getting ready to offer another player the deal that they had on the table for you. And I was like, what deal? I wasn't aware of any deal that had been that was already made, which is not all his fault. That definitely goes on my side of things, and not being involved as much as I should have. But there was a deal on the table that would have kept me in Kansas City. They gave it to somebody else. After they gave it to somebody else, they offered me a 3-year deal that was significantly less. And I decided not to take it. And then from there, I sat on the market for about a month. And I was looking at Philly. I looked at the Giants. San Fran was in the picture.
Okay.
And the Giants just had the best situation, I felt, as far as playing and trying to get back to the table as far as getting another contract. And it was a 1-year deal. I knew the situation, and that's how it happened.
The Chiefs won 4 games the next year, so they're lost, right?
Yeah. It worked out. Yeah.
Did any players talk to you about, like, did you ask any players that were on the team before you made your decision?
You mean on the Giants or Kansas City, or
on the Giants? Yeah.
I didn't know anybody.
Okay.
It was really a situation where I looked at the roster. Jarris Wilkinson was a young guy. I knew I would have to compete with him. And my agent felt like it was a good move, and I kind of weighed out the options and just went with the Giants.
Now, there was Coach Gunta was there, right? You had some experience with him at KC, right?
Yeah, Cunningham. Yeah, he was a nut.
Right, because what was he, like a DB coach?
He was the defense coordinator. Oh, you're talking about Peter Gunta. You're talking about Genta, Peter Genta. Yeah. Yeah, he was the DB coach in Kansas City. So I knew him. I didn't have a chance to talk to him prior to signing, but he did talk to me when I first got there, and that was a part of he kind of gave me advice as far as competing and what I was up against.
Okay, because I know it feels good at least when you got a friendly face in the building, right?
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead, guys. You can jump in here anytime you want.
Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead, Mike.
I want to say this, man. Of anybody who's ever had a one-year deal with the Giants, I can't remember anybody that's had an impact as much as you did. And I feel like I have a Mandela effect going where I remember you being on the team longer than 1 year. Like when I looked it up on Wikipedia, I'm like, it didn't make sense to me. I thought there was an error. And truly what you did that year was remarkable. But my question right now is, you made a transition from inside linebacker to outside linebacker. Is that easier said than done? Did you have to do anything extra to prepare for the switch?
No, it was actually easier said than I mean, it was easier. It was easier done. Easier said than done.
Okay.
But I didn't want to. I liked being in the middle. I liked being the guy that was in commanding things and calling out the plays and all that. And so it was an easier transition for me. It was not something I wanted to do, but once I got the hang of it and I got comfortable, I loved it.
You were playing next to Antonio Pierce because he was already there. Yeah.
I mean, that guy, he's definitely one of the smartest players and one of the most quality leaders that I played with.
Yeah, it's funny. Do you stay in touch with any of the guys from that team? There's that bond, right?
Yeah, for sure. I went back for Strahan's retirement. I still talk to Kiwanuka. I talked to Antonio. I talked to a good handful of guys.
Yeah, we've had a bunch of guys on, Tollefson, Chase Blackburn. We've had on Dominic Hickson and Kevin Booth, Rich Soybert. They're like, yeah, we're still in group chats and the stories they share.
That is true. They're most of the guys that we talked to were from the 2017, and they're all good guys, but they all seem like they get along real well. Like they're still tight to this day. It's pretty cool.
No doubt.
Yeah, that was important. Yeah, that was a big part of our run.
The one image that I think is great for all of us is in the Super Bowl when you completely faked the blitz and messed or faked like you were going to drop into coverage, messed with Brady. That speaks to what you guys were about. And it's funny looking at Steve Spagnolo that year and really throughout his whole career. Early in the season, his defenses tend to struggle a little bit. But then by the end of the year, he always has his units playing well. Look at the Chiefs this year. You guys let up 80 points in the first two games. At that point in time, were you like, oh man, did I make the right decision? Or did you feel good about how things were going to turn out?
We felt good about it. It was actually 88 points that we gave up in the first 2 weeks. And, it just,
a lot, yeah.
Yeah, we weren't happy with that, and I think the leadership that we had with Strahan and some of the other guys, it was unacceptable. But Spags has the way that he builds his defense. He really builds the foundation, and then he just continues to add on to it. And I think that's why his defenses get better as the year goes on because we start off pretty simple. It's a pretty complex defense by the time you finish the season, but we work our way to that point. So it's for instance, like the play you're talking about in the Super Bowl, we ran that blitz all year long, and 100% of the time I dropped out for coverage. And a couple times during the season we talked about faking it and blitzing, and he would just say no, not yet.
You couldn't have timed it better, man. You were perfect on that. I don't think you could have timed it any better.
Then in the game he was like, all right, it's time to do it. And I was like,
he made you wait all season long, right?
Yeah, all season long, man, all season. And so we decided to do it, and it worked. So I was like, wow, it was a pretty cool experience. But
because you guys were beating teams that you lost to earlier in the year. Yeah, then you get to the playoffs and you're beating every single one of them. Were there any players that you went against early on in the season that were giving you a tougher time that, when you went against them later in the season, it was a different story?
No, I think really just we just really needed to find our way.
Sure.
For whatever reason, we couldn't win at home. It just,
yeah, I
it was
remember.
unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, the Giants fans are amazing, and they let us know. The great thing was they let us know during the game. After the game, they were showed us love. But yeah, that's the only thing. We, for whatever reason, we couldn't win at home. But the good news is the Giants fans, they travel pretty good. So every time we won that on the road, there was always, the circle, the bottom part of the stadium was always filled with Giants fans.
Let me back it up a bit, because Mike and Mike here are ramping all the way up to the Super Bowl and stuff.
Yeah.
I gotta get the foundation story a little bit more, because when you sign and you come, the biggest thing, and I think I texted you this, a couple hours ago, like, did you know anything about Coughlin? Did you know what you were getting into? How was it? Did you like playing for him? Because, like I said, we've interviewed probably 10 guys from your team, and they're all like, at first it's a little bit of a culture shock. I mean, David Deal's like, yo, it's hard. It's hard every day. It's hard when you're not at practice. He's like, it's always hard, but it made me better for it. So my question is, did you know about Tom? And, what was the story there?
I knew about Tom. What I heard was not good going into it. But for me, I'm one of those sick guys, man. I like that. I like it hard. I like you yelling at me. I like you being tough on me. I just react better to those situations. And my college coach was like that, and so we would have fun with him, man. At least I would. He would. Guys would. One story I'll tell you is the guy he had an extra cell phone and he put it up underneath somebody's chair. And while Coughlin was talking during the meeting, he called the phone. And Coughlin would stop the meeting and be like, "Who is that? Be a man, stand up. Who is this?" And obviously the person who had the phone had no idea that it was him. so he would get mad about it. He'd get pissed. And we would have fun with it. But, at the end of the day, he was a general. He ran his team, and you knew what to expect. And for me, having a clear-cut image of what I need to do, I work well with that.
You probably also had a little something with Lawrence Tynes, right? You only missed him by a year, right? Because I think he left in like 2003. I think you missed him by a year, I think.
No, we were in Kansas City together.
Oh, you were? Okay.
Yeah. So I did know him. I did forget about that connection, but it was good. It was good reconnecting with him for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Lawrence has been on a couple times. He's a funny cat, man. He really is.
He's good. Yeah. So it's interesting on the topic of coaches. I mean, you were with Sean Payton your last year, and today, I watched that speech and he kept going. I don't know if you saw any of it today, but I was just thinking, like, in today's day and age, we took for granted, I think, as a Giants population, the run of success and stability that was there with Coughlin. And since he's been gone, it's been kind of like every 2 years, and it's a reboot, and it's a shame. So, like, you've had the fortune of playing for some great coaches. What would you say as far as like a new head coach coming into really any organization, but because the team's going through that now, like, what are some of the things that you think are the most important thing from a player standpoint?
Well, first, Coughlin and Sean Payton are complete opposites. Payton would walk into his team meetings 5-10 minutes late, and I was like, man, what is going on? Like, this is crazy. So the first thing I think about is the coaches who know how to make their expectations clear, like I mentioned before, but they also let their coaches coach, and
okay.
And then NFL, obviously, you got all these coaches who have a ton of experience and they're really good at what they do.
Yeah.
But some of these coaches, they try to control the situation a little bit too much when you need to let the guys do what they do best and let them coach their guys. But it's a push and pull thing. You got to have a good balance. You're dealing with some grown men who make a lot of money. It's not an easy situation to manage. You got to kind of let the leadership of the locker room develop. But you also have to be the number one leader. You have to set the example. So I think it's a balance, but that's why you see some of these college coaches that don't have success. They can't manage the situation. Yeah, they can't let their they can't let their coaches do their job, and they think that they can control all these situations, and you can't. You got to really manage it. So probably somebody who's just a really good manager, somebody who can really, keep everything tight, scheduling, keep everything tight with the practices and all those situations.
It's a CEO job. I think some of these young hot coordinators get in there and they try to they think they're still the offensive or defensive coordinator, but you're responsible for more than that.
Well,
you're responsible for everything.
We went through that with Judge. We kept looking at Judge saying, I think he still thinks he's a special teams coach,
Yeah, I kind of liked him at first, his message and stuff like that.
Fresh. We all liked him at first.
Well, let me ask this about Judge. I know this is a little off topic, but did you think that because I love the way that Judge talked at first, he sounded like that tough coach, What do you think went wrong with him? What do you think his shortfall was?
I would say, if anything, you got to command the locker room. I think he had the respect of the locker room. I think everybody liked him. I think there's no doubt that he's that guy that you want to kind of go to battle for and with. But, I think you got to be a step above everybody. Like you said, a CEO, we're not down here. We're not, I might see eye to eye to you. I might come to you and appreciate what you have to say, what you have to offer. But at the end of the day, you got to know that I'm the guy. And if you break my rules, if you don't do what I say, then we're going to handle business. And there's one thing to be tough, and you can be tough, but you got to, like I said, you got to keep it tight, man. You got to run the team like it's a business. You got to, because it is. You got to earn that respect.
I hear you. And I feel like we might see him again. That's the thing. He's young, he can go back, be a coordinator for a few years. We'll see what happens with him. But there's definitely things he has had to work on. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. How in tune are you with the current people in the building? You stay in touch with current either staff members or executives, or is it just kind of as a fan, you sit back and watch? Or
I'm more of a sit back and watch, but Jesse Armstead is still obviously involved, and then Ronnie Barnes, some of the training staff and the equipment guys. Those are the guys that they're the important ones to know. They make it run. They're the ones that handle the operations, and so I was always close to those guys. So I do talk to some of them. I went to a couple of Giants games this year.
I got a question about the cast of characters you played with. I mean, I'm a little bit older than these guys. I've seen a lot of ball. I've been sitting in that stadium, even with my dad through the 80s, and that 07 defense was just, you had Strahan, and you had Tuck and Ossie, and you had Cofield, and you had, Antonio Pierce, Fred Robbins. What was that group like? Because when I think back as a kid, I think the 86 defense with Lawrence Taylor and Banks and Carson and those guys, that's the second best defense I think since the Giants ever had. What was it like playing with those guys? Did you know that group was going to be tight right out of the gate? Did it just feel good as soon as you put the pads on with those guys, or did it take some time to mold that defense?
It felt good almost immediately. Obviously, like we talked about the first two games, that didn't feel good, and we were surprised by that. But it felt good. We had a lot of fun together. But it really started with Strahan. He was our leader. He was the leader of the team. Like I said, he demanded certain accountability, certain expectations, and then you had Antonio Pierce, who he knew the defense. He was calling out things on the defense that the coach was not planning on even touching on for a month or two. He would call it out, and the coach would have to stop. Spags would have to stop practice and be like, "Listen, we're not ready for that." And, so those guys, to start with, those guys that really got everything set up, and then having the experience I had to kind of help, get Antonio's job done, and then you got Tuck and Ossie and all these other guys who, as far as performance-wise, it started on the defensive line. Getting the pressure that they got it kind of made everybody else's job pretty easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was like a special group of guys, and they all. I mean, it was you guys were doing after the sack, they were doing the balling with the shooting, and that seemed like it was just I don't know, like when I watch it, when I think about it, that just seemed like a bunch of good guys that all got along real well. Like no divas, nothing. They just all wanted the ball at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the key to winning the Super Bowl. You have teams that perform, and you have teams that they're gonna do well. But the ones that stick together, the ones that are accountable, the ones that have fun, I think those are the guys that you need to watch out for, because if you might get shook, you might get beat, something bad might happen, but at the end of the day, we have confidence in each other, and we'll get it done.
For sure.
No doubt. One of the things that, like, another thing we take for granted is just how great you were at linebacker, D-line, and offensive line during that run.
Mm-hmm.
And, the organization has really struggled to have dominant pass rushers and dominant offensive line play. They've really struggled to have average offensive line play the last few years. So, that's one thing that I think that we're looking forward to getting back to. But you also need to affect the other team's quarterback, and your quarterback's got to be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And like one thing that was funny about Eli at that point in time, coming into the year and during that year, there were still some questions on, hey, is he going to be here long term with Coughlin and him?
Is he the guy?
Yeah. Were you always confident? I'm sure it's, a 53-man roster. I'm sure some guys maybe have their doubts, but like, did you see that he had that ice in his veins mentality early on in terms of just like being calm in big moments? Or was that something that when he just kind of got hot toward the end and into the run, you were like, whoa?
There was definitely some like some amazing moments. He had a kind of personality that kind of would scare you a little bit, because you weren't quite sure.
It's like, do you care, dude?
Yeah, but I kind of, sounds terrible. I always said he's kind of like Forrest Gump. He just kind of, he's just kind of a little goofy, and but as far as the quarterback, man, and having all the tools, I mean, the guy, he could throw any ball. He was, prototypical size. He was extremely smart. I think everybody just naturally compares him to his brother, and when you don't meet those expectations, I think a lot of people question him. But he was great in his own right, man, and he definitely showed up all the time, but he is a quiet guy. Well, you see him talking a little bit more on Monday Night Football, but
I was going to say,
he's active
on Monday
now.
Night Football, Kawika, he's an entirely different guy, right?
He's a funny guy, though, man. I mean, that's who he is, but on the field, he was always focused, and he always came to work, and he was a guy that you can count on. There's no doubt about that.
Well, let me ask this. I mean, does he or anybody, because you guys are such a good defense, you gave that offense such a good look. Anybody in the offensive line, anybody, in the backfield ever credit, the defense for making them better because they had to practice against you guys every day?
All the time. Yeah. I mean, and that offensive line that we had, they played a lot of games together. They had a lot of experience together. We had some rookies that showed up with Boss and even Matthews, another tight end that showed up and played big for us. And then, of course, Ahmad Bradshaw and some of these guys that did a great job for us as rookies. But, the offensive line themselves, they had a lot of chemistry, and they really knew what they were doing. And we made each other better. There's no doubt about it, because we definitely competed in practice. We did it smart, but we definitely got after it.
Yeah, we interviewed David Deal a couple of weeks ago, and he said the same thing. He's like, if you could block versus our pass rush, it was a lot easier moving forward after that. He's like, you think about the guys that are all Snee and Soybert and those guys who they had to face and practice against. It just made them so much better.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. And we, speaking of Spags defense, towards the end of the year, we're coming from everywhere. His blitz package was awesome. So you never knew where we were coming from. And I think, of course, that's going to get your offense better, just seeing what you're up against.
I used to like that NASCAR that he would run where he would bring, some of those, bring Tuck down inside the middle and just I don't know. I was always a big fan of what Spags did. I think he was pretty creative with the kind of personnel that he had, so, part of me thinks like, he just knew how to make you guys work, like it was like some guys can't figure out the talent they actually have and they go underused. Like we talked about, with Coach Judge, like he had all these, on paper, he had all these tools and you kept saying, why isn't he using this guy? Why isn't he using that guy? Or, and we're kicking a lot of field goals, so I always appreciated Spags for unlocking, every guy, even if it was like you said, 1 week at a time, or if you waited to the end of the season. I always appreciated the fact that everyone on that team, Kiwanuka, Cofield, like everybody made plays, it was fun to watch.
The key to it, and really the key to any success in the league, in my opinion, is having a system, and when you have a system, guys get hurt, it kind of prepares you for that. You can pull and plug people in different spots, but everybody knows what the system is. And no matter what happens, it continues to run. And you need a guy like Antonio Pierce who can set everything up. You need a guy like Strahan. You need safeties and people. There's some key spots, but other than that, everybody else you can move them around and shift them around and make it work.
Yeah. One more 07 question, and then I'm going to fast forward to this current.
Well, get crazy, Fresh.
I got an 07 question too.
Yeah, I got an 07 question too.
Yeah.
So don't get crazy.
You guys, you take mine then. That's good.
All
That's
right,
good.
mine's simple. Kawika, when you go to you make the wild card at 10-6, like you said, you couldn't win at home. I was there. I saw it. Hey man, still a great season though. What's the vibe of the team? Like, were you guys, because you started off with those 2 bad losses and you couldn't win at home, you get into the playoffs? Is the vibe like, is it like hey, we're just glad to make the playoffs, or is it like an effort, man? We're gonna go on a run. I feel it. Like, was it like, those sometimes you're happy just to be there, or is it no, man, we're catching fire at the right time? I mean, that Patriot game, I think you got hurt in that game. Yeah. You battled the Patriots right down there. It's one of the best, actually, season games I've seen in a long time. So again, was it a effort, we're going on a run, or was it a, hey man, we're glad to be in the show?
No, we definitely weren't just glad to be there. We were F it, F you, everybody else, man. We're here for business. Like, if you don't think we can get it done, then that's gonna make it rough on you.
The only reason why I ask is sometimes I see teams that get into playoffs. Like, again, I don't want to crank on the Packers, but like, it just, again, I listen. I played D3 ball. I have no idea what it is to play at that level, right? But I can recognize effort when I see it. And the Packers just didn't look like there was any effort, the other night. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, I just didn't, some teams feel like, hey, we're glad to be here. This is awesome. I'm getting an extra paycheck. But your team just felt like they gained a lot of momentum as the year went on.
Yeah, momentum is key. It's key. Anytime you enter the playoffs, I think that's the big difference maker at that point of the season once you hit the playoffs. But no, we had a chip on our shoulder, and like I said, that accountability. We did not want to let each other down. We collectively believed in each other. We believed in our team. We believed in the offense. They believed in us. We believed in our special teams. At that point, we were in a really good state of mind, whatever you want to call it. It was all business, and we were not going to be denied.
It's funny when I want to get pumped up at the gym or something like that. One video that I'll watch is actually the 2007 Giants when they have the Fox analysts. Every single playoff game, they're always taking the other team, right? Buccaneers, all 4 of them take the Bucs. You get to the Cowboys game, all 4 of them get to the Cowboys. And to watch how disrespected you guys were, and every single week go out there and prove them wrong, that was extremely incredible to watch.
Yeah, we loved it. The more people counted, the more you counted us out, the more we enjoyed it. And we knew it was happening. We knew that people weren't gonna believe in us, but we definitely believed in ourselves, and that's really all that mattered.
Sure. I got this one question though about that Packers game. First of all, because it was so brutally cold that night. I know from playing sports at my level in the past, it's a little cold out. You can feel warmer as the game goes on, right? but it's so cold that night. Like, did you ever get to a point where you were able to ignore the cold, or was it hitting you the whole time?
No, it was freezing, man. That's the only game. That's the only game. I mean, that game was definitely the coldest. I used the mittens on the sideline. I used the big jacket. Yeah. I never did that before. It was my mouthpiece would freeze every time I take it out of my mouth, and it was the real deal, man. It was cold.
Probably much nicer playing indoors in Phoenix the next week or 2 weeks later.
Yeah, it was night and day. But I tell you what, when we hit that game winner and the game was over, it got pretty warm pretty quick.
Yeah.
So I guess it did warm up eventually.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Spartan, you got more 07 or are you good?
I got one more 07, and this is just a little bit related to the end of the Super Bowl, right? You had a killer game, awesome game. What was like the 48 hours after you guys won like for you?
Oh, wow.
It's called no sleep.
It was a celebration. Yeah, I mean, you talk about New York and just a great fan base. You know, that was one thing I was amazed by when I came to New York was, you know, they don't really care. You know, look at the city. The city's huge, man. They got so much going on, but man, they knew who I was. They knew who everybody was. You know, they had a lot of love, a lot of respect. And when we won the Super Bowl, you know, they made sure that we knew it.
Sure.
And,
the parade's probably pretty cool, right? Parade.
Yeah, I can't say there's a better. I can't think of a better place to win a Super Bowl than in New York. You know, the parade was amazing. It was all just a crazy experience. You know, and again, it's New York, and they showed a lot of love. So it was crazy.
Go ahead, Fresh.
All right.
You're jumping the shark all the time.
Yeah, by the way, midway through this, I realized that like I completely disregarded the order in which the question.
All right, dude. That's what I'm here. It's all good. That's what I'm here for.
All right. So when Eli's about to get sacked, before he scrambles out of that and heaves one up to for the helmet catch, what are you thinking?
You're like, oh no.
The whole drive, I was like, man, you know what? I don't know how many third downs. I don't know how many situations that we're in, and then it comes down to that play, and Eli does something that he never does. You know, that's just not going to happen. And I was worried the whole time. You know, even the last time they had the ball.
Sacked? Come on, you thought he was sacked.
Yeah, I mean, most likely, yeah. I thought we were, you know, there's several third and long situations. I thought we were done. You know, I thought not because I didn't believe in it, because just the statistics of the game. You know, those aren't in your favor. And when he came out of that and threw the ball and the way it was caught, and it was pretty crazy all the way to the end, because then they had the ball and they got Randy Moss and they got Tom Brady. So yeah, you know, you can't let up.
You get that. You know, it's funny because you think about that. You know, you still had to have Plaxico catch the touchdown, right? But everybody helmet catch. You almost feel like that was the end of the game, but it wasn't.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It was nuts. That was nuts. Yeah,
all right.
That was unbelievable.
This is the one I texted you about because I got to ask, because I've had a couple of your brothers on here, and there's a handful of them that have said this somewhat of a similar story. How do you not get a big fat deal to stay with the New York Giants? You might not even want to tell me, but I will tell you that there are at least 6 guys that we have interviewed. I don't need to name them. You already know who they are. We've interviewed, and they all say the same thing. So I'm just kind of wondering, like, as Spartan Mike said, I mean, like, what a great 1-year deal. I mean, like, you know, I've seen Gary Reasons, and I've seen, you know, Zach Diassi's dad. I didn't even forget his first name. You know, I've seen Pepper Johnson. I've seen great linebackers in New York, you know, all the way through. Like you were a great linebacker. You would have fit that squad for years. How do you not walk out with a big deal? Because I just don't get it. It's one that probably, like Mike said, it almost feels like you were there for at least 2 years, because you fit in. Like, and I'm not blowing smoke. I'm just saying, like,
the impact is there. It felt more than just a year.
Look, again, and I've seen a lot of games in the stadium on TV, like, and that's why we ask these questions. Like, you absolutely just snapped that last puzzle piece in. Like, you fit with those guys, and it was like a really cool bond. So how do you not walk out with a big deal? Like, what happens where they just drop the ball? I know who's probably whose fault it is, not yours, of course, but I don't know. Any insight here? Because I've been dying to ask you this question for 20 years.
I'll take the blame for it, but Reese and those guys, the front office, they had a deal on the table. It wasn't a very secure deal for me. The year prior, I explained what happened in free agency. I was scared to death to experience that again. Buffalo came knocking. It's not somewhere I wanted to go. I said no the first few times. And even with my contract with Buffalo, as I'm sitting in the room, I'm talking to Antonio Pierce, who is going to Spags, and he's talking to Spags about, how can we get this done? And then they're going to the GM and we're trying to get it done. We're trying to get, and I didn't want much more. I wanted a little more security. I wanted like another year, I wanted a couple 100,000 or whatever. It wasn't that big of a difference. But at the end of the day, it was a situation where I was actually, very scared to go through another situation like I did the year prior. So that played a role into it. I wanted some more security. Buffalo really wanted me to be there. I really wanted to come back to the Giants. That was really what I wanted to do. If I would say, like, looking back at it in hindsight, it's something that I probably would have taken the deal now, just because knowing what I know, it's always looks better looking back. But
sure.
Having the season that I had the year after that, I believe I probably could have went back to the table again anyway and tried to negotiate another contract, because I played better the year after that with the Bills.
Wow.
And continued to grow as a player. But it just didn't work out. I thought it was a no-brainer. Jabril Wilson was the only safety that year. He was going to get a big deal no matter what. They weren't going to be able to pay him enough. Reggie Torbor was the third free agent. They didn't seem like they were interested in signing him again. I was the only one left. So I thought we can kind of work it out. I kind of used that leverage a little bit, and it just didn't work out.
So this whole time I've been mad at them. I should be mad at you? Oh, Christ.
I'll take the blame. It's
man. You got to do what's best for you.
Yeah, you do what's
best
for you.
I'm always on the side of the players, man. Like,
man.
You got to do.
I'm always having fun with you. You got to always do what you got to do. Always just like, you guys come in and you're like, all right, maybe they fit. You showed up and it was like, this guy just, I don't know, he just belongs here. Like, it was that easy. At least from watching how fluid the defense was. Some guys they don't fit. Those guys, they just don't fit, whether it's their style or maybe it's their mannerisms, maybe it's a locker room thing. Like, you fit right in there. So, look, hey, at that point, again,
you did what was best for you, but I got to say this though. You did the right thing, no doubt. But the Bills' late 2000s uniforms, just what they wore that whole decade. Those are really freaking weird, man. What on earth? The navy blue with that light blue stripe. Oh man,
it was a drop off, man. I knew. I knew. Much respect to the Bills. They really wanted me, and I knew. They weren't winning games. They haven't had a good season in a long time. The ownership was. He wasn't really involved, and I knew the situation.
Sure.
It just you make those decisions, and but I almost came back. I don't know if you guys knew that.
Wait, whoa, time out. No, we don't know this story. I'm listening to this one.
Yeah,
it was the second Super Bowl with Eli, and I think what was his name? Goff tore his ACL.
Jonathan Goff.
Yep.
Yeah, and Perry Field was the defense coordinator, who was my defense coordinator in Buffalo, and I was a free agent at the time, and they called me up, and this was obviously before the season started. They were getting ready to play Washington to open the season, and they asked me. They said, "Listen, our middle linebacker just went down. We need you to play 40 snaps on Sunday, and how are you? You in good shape? Are you healthy?" And I said, I checked yes, and they said, "Okay, we're going to bring you in for a physical." They asked me some defensive questions. and I knew all of them. You know, I remembered the defense. I could answer everything. I could easily walk in the game and start. And so they brought me in. They took me to the physical. I went to the physical, and I'm on my way out the door. And the doctor asked me to touch my toes, and he wanted to look at my back, which I just had a scope. I had a scope procedure on one of my discs during the lockout that kind of timed up. So once he saw the scar, he asked me what it was, you know, and from there, they said, okay, well, we need you to work out. We're going to bring in Chase Blackburn. They brought in Chase. So me and Chase worked out. They didn't sign either one of us. I thought they were going to wait till after the first season, or after the first game, because then my contract would not be guaranteed. And then I never heard back, and they ended up signing Chase. So it didn't work out.
It's interesting because we've had Blackburn on. He's actually, really good dude, right? And he was telling us that story, how he did two things. Spags was at the Rams at that point, and he went. He needed to try, wanted to try out,
great.
Right? And Spags calls him and says, "Hey, I can't remember who was. It might have been laryngitis or
laryngitis.
Yeah, I think he went down. So they called Blackburn to come. He's like, "Can you be here in like 4 hours?" He's like, 4 hours. He's like, all right. So he says he's scrambling first to throw stuff in a bag, and he runs out to the airport. He flies in, goes to the tryout. He gets there. It's fresh. Were you on the phone with me when he told us the story?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So he says he gets there. He literally goes from the airport right to the field, and he's getting dressed, and he realizes he has no cleats. Right. So and it's like early in the morning, and it's wet. So he's going through the locker room trying to find some cleats. Said he's looking in trash bins. He's looking, trying to find. He's like, but nobody's there. The facility's closed.
Yeah.
Right. And he said he tried out in the rain, and he just, he was slipping and sliding and falling down the whole time. And he said it literally was like 2 hours of him falling down. He said, and he went to Spags. He put his arm around him. He's like, I know, I'll show myself out. So he goes home. He knows he doesn't make it. He's laying on the floor. He's playing with his kids because he got a bunch of kids, right? And he's got the phone on the couch, right? And it's buzzing, and he's not paying attention to it. He's just ignoring it. And his wife says, "Chase, are you going to get the phone?" He goes, "Nah, it's probably just the Giants." And she goes, "Chase, it's the Giants." She's like, yeah, whatever. He goes, no. It's really the Giants. And he's like, "Wait, you're not kidding?" He's like, "No." So he literally almost missed his window, which would have, by the way, if you think about it, was your window. If he misses that call, that's kind of crazy, Fresh, now that I think about it.
Yeah, really.
Playing with his kids, if he doesn't pick up that call, Kawika might have had that gig. That's crazy.
I would have missed it. My 2-year-old daughter is nuts, so I would have missed that call.
Yeah, exactly. So that's cool, man. I mean, that's a really cool story, especially when you think about it. And Perry Fuel, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder how much these guys go to bat for you. Was Perry Fuel a good D coordinator? Was he good?
Yeah, I mean, if we're comparing Spags, man, Spags, like I said, it goes to the system. Perry didn't have the same system, but I liked him a lot. He was a big Tampa 2 guy. He liked smaller linebackers. I kind of fit with what he wanted to do. I guess I was just able to do it, but
why does he consider 240 small?
What's that?
You're about, what'd you play at? 240, 250?
250. But no, I could move well enough to do what he needed to.
Oh, okay.
And,
Okay.
But I did well in his system. I made a lot of plays. So I would say, yeah, I mean, his blitz package is pretty nice. So
yeah.
So all right, let's fast forward. This disaster of the last decade of Giants football, it must be killing you as much as it's killing us. And
that's if he watches, Fresh. Do you pay attention?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say I can sit out there and name everything, but I do pay attention.
You played for a lot of teams too. I mean, it's like how many
Yeah,
eggs can you have at one time?
Yeah.
I love the game. I love the game, so I can appreciate watching and seeing what's going on for sure.
So there's probably a lot of different reasons, and we all have our opinions on what's gone wrong in the last decade. Let's say we touched on Jerry Reese earlier. Then to Gettleman, and now it's going to be a new GM. Is it as simple as like this roster just hasn't had enough talented players the last several years? Like, is it just as simple as that?
I think it's really hard to say that with any NFL team. All NFL teams are stacked,
True.
and I think the key is we talked about it earlier in this the offensive defensive line, man. If you don't have those things sewed up, if you don't have those things, that's a priority. I don't care who you have at quarterback. I don't care who your running back is. I don't care who your receivers are. I don't care who your DBs are. I don't care who your linebackers are. Yeah. It's not going to matter. At the end of the day, you need those guys. You need some really key players in those positions that are gonna make a difference because they do win and lose games for you.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's what that's where they let the back end of Eli's career, the line deteriorated, and unfortunately it's been unable to be built back to where it needs to be. So this year with the 5th and 7th pick, hopefully that's where it goes.
And Fresh, it's not like they ignored it, because they did draft a bunch of guys, like Brewer and Flowers and Hart and these guys, like McCordles, McCants, Harrimans. They did draft linemen. They just didn't draft the right
ones. They didn't sign right guys either. I mean, Soldier loaded the Giants. I mean, big money.
Let me ask you this. I feel like the guys know who could play and who's a bust. Like coming into off the draft or off a free agent signing, how long till you can tell if a guy could play?
It's instantly, right away you can kind of tell what a guy is about. And
like practices, right?
I mean, everybody, at that point, if a free agent comes in, if a draft pick comes in, you kind of expect them to have a hard time. You're surprised if they do really well. If a free agent comes in, you're looking at their attitude, you're looking at kind of their approach to the game, and you can tell right away, how are they going to approach this game? How are they going to respect the players around them? And some guys, that's something that happens pretty fast.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Like I said, because they know the DNA of the players. You know what I mean? So they, one player looks at another player, Fresh, and like they just know the idiosyncrasies that make a great player. So
I watch Colin Cowherd, and he has former players on his show, and he asks all the time, and then he's like, the Packers know whether or not Jordan Love could play. Like they see him every day in practice for the last year and a half. Like they know exactly what they're getting into if Aaron Rodgers moves on. So I'm just thinking about like these missed opportunities that we've had the last few years, and hopefully we just pick the right guys this year. I'm not a general manager, so
thank God you're not a general manager.
Any interest in any interest for you, like getting back involved, coaching, anything like that ever interest you?
Yeah, I did an internship under Coughlin, and I was with Fuel and some of those guys in Jacksonville. I really enjoyed it. I really do love it's a really demanding job with really high expectations. I like that kind of stuff. It just doesn't fit with my family. I have an 18-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 4-year-old. And,
wow.
So I really enjoy that part of life, and my family is really important to me. If you become a coach at the college or professional level, that they're not their priority. So
are you coaching the kids?
I coach high school for about 3 years. I do plan on getting back into it next year. I do enjoy it. I think the kids, it's amazing. These young kids come out to practice, they bust their butt. They deserve to have quality coaching. So it's something that I do enjoy.
Well, let me ask this, because you're from Florida, and I just see so many big name programs down there. Why is Florida so much better at football than any other state?
I don't, we're just stacked, man. I think a part of it is, weather-wise, you can play every sport. You got guys that are playing all different sports, just straight athletes. South Florida and North Florida are a little bit more stacked. Definitely South Florida being the thickest as far as talent. Central Florida is a little bit more spread out, but there's definitely a lot of talent here. I really just think, I don't know, but, generations of speed. There's some fast guys down here, and there are in California, there are in Texas, but
Sure.
I don't know if it's the heat, man, that plays a role in that, but I think it does.
Also, too, the state is humongous. We can put 3 New Jerseys inside of Florida. I mean,
Yeah, but per capita now, Florida still produces more NFL players. Look at the state of New York; they got a ton of people. They produce hardly any football players.
Yeah, well, it's because that's 60% city.
Yeah, Long Island. I mean, you don't really have that's why I asked the question. You don't really have the enthusiasm for high school football that I would imagine was down in Florida. I just didn't know if that was part of it.
Also, too, think about how many great college programs you have in Florida. How many great college programs you have in New York? None.
True.
We're not that great. We're not that great now. We're kind of terrible right now. But the first thing that comes to mind, and I don't know the data, but heat, man. We can do whatever we want year round.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Well, I know you don't want to hang out with me. I'm going to give you what we call the speed round, and then I'm going to let you go hang out with your fam. All right.
All right.
These are super easy. They're a little bit fun. All right. What's better, a sack, a pick, or a fumble recovery for a touchdown?
Fumble recovery for a touchdown.
See, I read your stats. I know. I knew he was going to say that. All right.
Yeah, I like scoring.
That's right, baby. You were a Hoboken guy, if I remember correctly. Favorite Hoboken bar?
Man, this is not a quickie. So I had a thing I did. So I went from every block, and if it said bar on it, we went in and had a drink. Let me tell you how hard that is.
I'll tell you what. Hoboken, when I was probably a little older than you, but Hoboken was like my stomping grounds, like yours was at the time. Hoboken's in the Guinness Book of World Record for having more bars per square mile than any other city in America.
I know, that's why I did it.
Yeah. So, yes. So you like them all, is what you're saying.
Yeah, man, we went into some that they didn't even speak English, man, and it was pretty cool. Yeah, it was a pretty cool experience.
All right, craziest, and I use that word lightly, crazy, nuts, Giants teammate you ever played with?
The craziest Giants team I played with?
Yeah, like one player you played with on the Giants.
Teammate.
Teammate, just crazy dude.
I would say Antonio Pierce. Antonio's like, yeah, he had a good time, man, and he went hard on the field. Smart dude. He was like a pit bull. He was definitely, he would be that guy.
He's the guy when you shoot yourself in the leg, you want that guy with you, right?
You want that guy with you for sure. That's the guy.
And by the way, if you did stay, you would have realized that 2008 year, you guys would have went back to the Super Bowl if one wide receiver didn't shoot himself in the leg.
I would have been in that car.
Exactly. I was thinking
that's who I hung out with. That's who I was with. Antonio was and Plex. Those are the guys.
I figured you would be with AP, and next thing you know, so maybe you missed out for a reason. All right. Yeah. 4th and 1, you're on the goal line. Jacobs or Bradshaw?
Jacobs.
All right.
I mean, Bradshaw's a pit bull too, but Jacobs, I mean. Geez.
All right. Favorite NFL player growing up?
Oh man, Bo Jackson.
Do you ever wear your Super Bowl ring? And if yes, where?
Well, I do wear it. I don't think this is what you're asking. I wear it on my middle finger, but I do wear it. I wear it during, just when I feel like it, but definitely during Super Bowl times.
All right. If you're going out to the convenience store, you don't like slipping on, right?
If I feel like it.
That's awesome.
I like it.
By the way, that's a great answer.
Yeah.
You were kind of answered that one already. I was gonna say what 2007 teammate you still talk to, but you said you talked to a bunch of guys. All right, so you played in 3 cold weather cities: Kansas City, Buffalo, and I guess we'll chalk it up to East Rutherford. Which one's the coldest?
Oh, Buffalo. Jeez, not even close.
Yeah, I figured that. All right. Who's the one guy on that 2017 that's completely underrated?
Oh, wow. Maybe let's throw Cofield in there. Barry Cofield.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, what was that? What was that? Don't tase me, bro. Was that the sack dance? Right?
Yeah.
Don't tase me, bro.
I forgot about that.
Oh, come on. That was one of the greatest sack dances of all time. Fresh, Spartan, have you ever seen the Barry Cofield sack dance?
Of course.
All right, Spartan, you're a young guy. Do yourself a favor, go on YouTube, type in Barry Cofield sack dance. I think it's called "Don't Tase Me, Bro." I think that's what it's called. Like so he gets the sack and he does the taser and he tases himself. And Barry Cofield's a big man, so watching him do it, it's hysterical. All right, last one, and we always ask everybody this question who plays D: hardest player in your career to tackle.
I've been asked this one. I want to say two for a good reason. LaDainian Tomlinson, just because you couldn't put your hands on the guy, he would be gone before you knew it. And then Jamal Lewis was
Ravens.
I mean, in his prime, if you hit that guy on his legs, you just watch him run by you. Just no point. So
that one, he had that 2,000-yard rushing season. He was just running cats over.
Yep.
Yeah, he was a beast, man. And then LaDainian, he just was. I remember going through the backfield. I had him in my sights. The next thing I knew it, I was like, where did he go?
Man.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, look, thanks for hanging out with us. You're watching another episode of The Giants Guys. I'm going to edit this up and fire it out on YouTube and Spotify and all the Apple Pods. It'll be all up there tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out with us. The last question is, can we bring you back? Because you got good stories.
Yeah, I'm down, man. Whatever. It was great to be on there. I appreciate it.
For what it's worth, and we've said this to a couple guys. We were talking to Leonard Marshall last week, I think it was, about how the Giants need more Giants as coaches, right? Like actual players. Like Jesse's still there, right? But I think the Giants for the last and Mikey Fresh was talking about it, like the decade of bad football. I don't know who needs to talk to who needs who, but like for what it's worth, like I think that the Giants are an organization that there's no, like you all come back and get on the field and celebrate, but nobody comes back and actually participates in building the team. So for what it's worth, the fans realize it, man. We all realize that we need some more Giants back in the building. So I don't know how that happens, but when the kids are all grown and they're gone or something, man.
I got the little one, so that's not gonna happen. But the one person I think you should watch out for is we talked about him, Antonio Pierce, man. If there's anybody who's gonna do it, it's gonna be that guy. He's in the college rankings right now. He will be a head coach somewhere pretty soon.
I believe that, and we know we're friendly with Blackburn, and he just got let go from Carolina as a special teams coach. But I hit him up. I didn't even tell you guys this. I hit him up, and he said, "Good things to come. I'll let you know soon." So he's got some things cooking. Yeah, he's got some things cooking, and he did mention to us over the summer before the season that he'd like to be a head coach too. So there is some guys that want to participate. Just like I said. I don't know. I think the Giants would be in a good spot if they brought some of you guys back to mentor some of these guys. So
it'll happen. It's gonna happen.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Another episode of the Giants Guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us. Good to chat with you.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Yeah.